Welcome to the show. Can I get a witness? Thank you for your patience. Now if I could do a video. I'm just a gigolo, and everywhere I go. Success for me has always been basically the same thing, which was to keep maximum velocity, be true to yourself, keep your integrity, because at the end of the day, if I'm doing all of this for you, if I'm looking to sell t-shirts, you know, and sell records and that kind of thing, that all comes and goes for everybody. Comes and goes. But what will always be there will be my integrity.
Sensible Shoes was co-written by you and two other people, and it talks about you as the lonely guy. Is this the autobiographical song of David Lee Roth?
All of my songs are autobiographical. Any work of art is obviously an extension of the artist who made it, especially if it was unintentional. You know, it's all by proxy. And when you hear a song like Sensible Shoes, yeah, that's the transparent mask. We all hold up the masks, but there's always a little crack in the woodwork. There's always a little flaw. And that is what the rest of the world sees first, middle, and last, talks about when you're not in the room, and remembers when you're dead. So I say, hey, let's leave all of that intact. Let's put all of that, you know, into the music and leave it there. It's the most human elements. It's the thing that attracts us to each other. And Sensible Shoes is very much like that. Let us see through the mask.
So you have lots of money and you're very funny, but you're a lonesome guy.
Well, that's bit and piece of it, you know. There's no one song that can sum up, you know, the entirety of any human being. Now, most bands propose to you a single flat cartoon image, you know. They want you to think something very specific about them, you know. This is not a response-oriented performance here. Not designed to make you think anything specific about David Lee Roth. I cry, I cheer, I celebrate, I get sexy. I'm free to share all of that with you, you know. What's the matter, girl? Haven't you ever seen an Enigma before? I ain't never gonna change.
I don't get it, okay? Because you're a guy who has traveled extensively. I mean, you go up and down the Himalayas and into the Amazon, and you climb rock faces, and you're well-read, and yet you continue to do music that is, well, I think that David Lee Roth is smarter than the music he makes.
Well, you know, depending on how you perceive the music, it's deceptively simple, all right? A lot of times I boil down what I say to a single line. And see, let's cut to the chase, man. You know, lest I wax rhapsodic. Hey, even try spelling that, you know? Yeah, some of us get caught up in our words, you know, and so forth. So, yeah, I boil things down a lot of times. But I think it's deceptively simple. The reason that I head off into these extravagant adventures, and they are adventures, you know, do these expeditions and whatnot, it's because, hey, all work, no play, make Dave a dull boy, you know? And you got to get out there and live it, man. A lot of pages in my passport. Rock and roll's a passport for me, and I want to use every single one of them. It's good to forget who you are, too. I don't feel naked and stripped when the spotlight isn't aimed my way. Sure, the world's a stage, and I want better lighting, but that's not really exactly reality. I'll visit reality, you know, according to my girlfriend, but only on a tourist visa. Printed word is sacred to me, man. You know, that's my best friend, always has been. I can always go back to that, always re-energizes me. I learn about you, learn about me, you know, get all kinds of ideas. When you do that, you never run dry, never run that flat on inspiration, because it's just, wow, all kinds of ideas. You can pull from many different wells, wine from many different wells. And you add that to the spirit of rock and roll, the rhythm and blues, which is my main gear. Then you have a hybrid form of rock and roll, something that's going to be a little more intriguing to you the 13th time you listen to it, you know. And a lot of bands, you know, make music for children. I never made music for children. Bugs Bunny was never made for children either, and that's why he's still around half a century later, you know. And then you can only do this if you pull from many different inspirations. So I read everything. A little bit of Huckleberry Finn, a little bit of Schopenhauer, you know. But I don't want this to sound like a Sting interview, and I don't want to bury you with influences, and, you know, you can't even spell names, and Jesus, you know, a lot of people think Voltaire is an air conditioning company. Fine, it's probably a better interpretation than listening to me just go off on philosophy.
You made videos it seems to me, for children. I mean, your latest one is, you know, the ode to plastic surgery
Wait a
again.
minute, girl. I've been hearing about adults my whole damn life, and I ain't met one yet. You know, you talk about what's happening in the videos. Those are your fantasies. Those are your colors up there. You say, oh, I don't think about girls like that. Fine. You telling me you dream in black and white? You don't dream in the colors of that sky and what's happening in the colors of those clothes and what the people are motivating in there? No, it's bigger than life. It's big, you know. A little ain't enough, you know. And I don't see that as, okay, you know, wanting excess and what have you. But a little ain't enough to me means new beginning every day. I want to kick off again. I want to kick off again. Ain't no dirt on the back of my uniform. Let's lead ahead. Let's lead ahead.
And what about the blackface? This is really a step backwards in my mind.
I think what we're doing there is we created a hybrid. It's not just blackface minstrels. There's a little Wizard of Oz tossed in there. You know who Busby Berkeley was? He was the one who invented all that kaleidoscopic formations there. And there were fantastic dancers like Eleanor Powell, and that's where Fred Astaire started. You combine all of these elements, and you have something that is, again, a hybrid that's intriguing to you. I like to salute grand traditions from the past. Let's take a bold vision of the future, and to hell with what's happening right now. So, but it's not just any one given thing. It depends on how you interpret it.
Okay. I interpret it, see, it bothers me because I think you're smarter than what you make. I do. I think that you have a witty intellect, you're well-read, you have lots of different influences, and every time we see, and I go, oh, why did he put on another video like that? It's disappointing.
Is it disappointing to you? Well, maybe that's your perspective, and you have to deal with that first. You know, in terms of thinking what's smart and what isn't, everybody has to make their own personal judgment, you know. Your criteria for intelligence may not be exactly what my criteria
Why
is.
should you put yourself in the third person?
Well, sometimes I do it just because it kind of separates from a real personal thing. I don't take any of this personally, you know. I like you. What you think of me is none of my business. And when you talk about other bands and you talk about a process, you know, or how something goes on, you know, and you just talk about it in terms of, yeah, I do this, and when I this, and when I that, it makes it sound like very much like, yeah, you know how many lead singers it takes to put in a light bulb? One. We hold the bulb and wait for the world to revolve around us. Well, you're laughing. You know these guys. I've had to drink beer with them. So it's like, so lest we start to think that as I get critical or I talk about other bands, and I do, no, I don't hold myself up at all. As the criteria for judging, I'm just a fan, just like you.
Coming up on the